What's going on, folks? This is your host, GB, so welcome to a Lesson in Headbanging podcast. And welcome and happy holidays. I hope you guys had a great Christmas, of course. So obviously my previous episode was talking about Steel Panther Holidays Tour Review and talk about upcoming tours in the 2024. But as we look forward to 2024, let's talk about 2023 before it wraps up. And before I get to that, I got to say, follow me on my social media platforms, A Lesson in Headbanging Podcast with GBs, available on Facebook, X, Instagram, and right here on YouTube. So hit the subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And as I mentioned, it's a podcast. Yeah, that's right, podcast. If you don't feel like watching on YouTube, very simple. All you have to do is type in your favorite podcast outlets like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. All you have to do is type in A Lesson in Headbanging Podcast today. All right, good deal. So, let's talk about 2023. And now I'm trying to think about getting creative here and what kind of list, what kind of countdown do I really want? And actually, instead of doing the albums like I normally do every year, and there's a lot of albums in the world of rock and heavy metal, but I'm going to make it interesting. My top 10 new bands I loved seeing. First time seeing them this year in 2023. And my number one, a little teaser, be surprised. You'd be surprised what's my number one. But before I continue on, I hope you guys had a great Christmas, right? Yes? No? What items do you get? You get CDs, records, t-shirts, subscriptions or a fan club subscription to a band. So I guess I could show off my Christmas stuff, right, for 2023. Ace Frehley, signed from my great sister. My sister took the time to see Ace Frehley at a convention center in the suburbs of Chicago. Signed by Ace. You know I'm a huge Kiss fan. If you are very, if you know about me, I'm a huge Kiss fan. And, of course, I did my review on the final Kiss tour in Chicago. And very cool. Instead of, I assume it's like a candle, it has all four of the original members. But just should end the tour, the final tour with all four original members, didn't happen. So I got a couple Kiss items as well. And I also do have vinyl as well. I have Anthrax, For All Kings on vinyl. Pretty cool. I'm pretty excited for this. And come on, for all the metal thrash fans out there, Seasons of Abyss, right? Pretty cool. And Slayer's Reign of Blood. So, good holiday present to kick off 2023, or end 2023 to be exact, headbanging into 2024. All right, so let's press on forward to my countdown. So 2023 had some ups, had some downs. Depends on how it looked for you. Now, 2023 has been a crappy year when it comes to artists passing away. And we got to acknowledge all the artists we lost this year. Some of the top ones, Jeff Beck, who we lost early on of 2023. Huge loss. Jimmy Buffett, again, another just a national treasure artist. Stephen Riley, former member of LA Guns, former member of Wasp. But we lost a lot of artists. And I'm pretty sure there's more missed out. But again, we have to acknowledge the fallen ones, the icons who passed away in 2020. And there's a bunch of out there. But again, we need to kick off the show talking about, the lost ones. The musicians that performed for us no matter what decade, no matter what period of world of rock and heavy metal, we definitely lost some members in 2023. So keep that in mind. All right, so let's talk about my top 10. My top 10 bands, new bands I haven't seen. Make it interesting. Top 10 bands I haven't seen that either I was somewhat of a fan, but I grew as a bigger fan leaving the show. Again, you can drop it right here in the comment section. If you have a specific band you've seen this year, spring, winter, summer, fall, you've seen a specific band that's the first time you've seen. You never saw this band before or an artist. And you're like, man, I just became a bigger fan. So drop it in the comment section right here on YouTube. And if you're watching on podcast or listening to podcast land, Facebook, X, Instagram, all you have to do is type in a Lesson on Headbanging Podcast. Again, that's where you can find all the updates in the world of rock when it comes to touring, festivals, and whatnot. So let's talk about my top 10. So number 10, we'll start from the top. And this band is from right here in Chicago. Yeah, a little industrial band, of course. Yeah, we got Disturbed. Yeah, we got Rise Against. Yeah, we got Enough is Enough. If you want to go dig deep into Chicagoland rock and roll and bands. But this band's industrial. And this band was on tour with Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper. Now you're like, Filter. No, that's not Filter. I'm talking about Uncle Al and the Boys, Ministry. First time seeing Ministry, I gotta say, I became a big fan walking out the amphitheater knowing these guys were phenomenal. And they were on my bucket list to see live in person. Ministry was one of them. I heard their music in the past. You know, would I drive a distance to see them? You know, now if they were on the package tour like the Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper, yeah, I'll be down. I'll get there early to watch them, and they were phenomenal. And I didn't know the former drummer from Stone Sour, Roy Magor, I think that's his name. I could be wrong, but I know he plays the drums for Ministry as well. But Uncle Al sounded great in vocals. The band sounded tight, heavy, industrial metal. These guys were phenomenal. And are still phenomenal, still cranking out new music. And if you haven't seen them, if you're a fan of industrial metal, this is the band you should go check out, Ministry. So that's my top 10. All right, so number 9 of new bands I haven't seen that I saw in 2023. Number 9 on the list, I've seen at the Milwaukee Metal Fest. I'm talking about After the Burial. Holy smokes, these guys blew my mind. Now, I'm quite aware who they were, right? So, at the Milwaukee Metal Fest, you have old school metal, you have death metal, you have thrash metal. But After the Burial's one of the bands, probably one or a couple that were actually metalcore-ish, deathcore style of metal. And these guys were phenomenal. These guys came on stage, and I keep thinking it's a 3-piece, but I think it's more of a 4-piece band. And I know these guys are from up north. I think they're from either Michigan or Minnesota, so they're not too far from the Midwest area. But these guys came out and they crushed it, man. They blew my mind. The people I talked to at the barricade at the Milwaukee Metal Fest, huge fan of theirs, and they just nothing but raving positive stuff about these guys. And these guys came on stage and they kicked ass. They had high energy, just nonstop people crowd surfing, people in the pit. I gotta say, this band brought the whole new level on stage. And would I see them again? Yes, I would see these guys again. So After the Burial, I know these guys were on tour with Motionless in White and Knocked Loose. I kind of wished to that show to see them in Chicago when they came here. But nonetheless, I missed out on it. But I saw them at Milwaukee Metal Fest, and I became a huge fan, and I cannot stop listening to these guys. After the Burial. All right, number 8 on my list of bands I haven't seen that I actually saw in 2023. A legendary punk crossover thrash band performed at the Milwaukee Metal Fest, of course. I'm talking about Mike Muir and the Boys, Suicidal Tendencies, the legendary Suicidal Tendencies. I believe they're from Venice Beach, California. I know they're from the California area. I know the history. I know their music. I've seen them many, many times. Or not seen them, but heard them. Seen them on YouTube many times. And now's the time to see them live in person. And I got to say, Suicidal Tendencies were phenomenal. They had high energy Mike Murr at the age he's at, just running back and forth on stage. And a little fact, a little story about Suicidal Tendencies. So I believe it was there was another band playing before Suicidal Tendencies. Could be Machine Head or somebody. And there were other bands playing on the side stages. And the bands I want to see. And I believe Unearth was playing on one of the side stages, Obituary. And I'm like, man, should I risk my barricade spot to see Anthrax, to see these bands? Or should I just hang out here? And there was an hour. There was an hour time. We call it like a set switch, right? Swapping out the drums, taking the band prior off and putting up Suicidal Tennessee. So they had about an hour to, get sound check. The guitars came out, and there was a young bass player that walked on stage. And I'm like, man, this kid's young. He's probably 12 years old? And he's playing bass, and he's just up there just fiddling around. And I'm like, is he a son to a band member? Yeah. He's the son of Robert Trujillo of Metallica. Ty Trujillo played with Suicidal Tennessee. I did not know that. And he was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. The band was phenomenal. And I got to say, Suicidal Tendencies were perfect. They played a great show, and I walked out as a bigger fan. So, Suicidal Tendencies, number 8. All right, let's talk about number 7. This band played a small club not too far from me at the Forge of Joliet. This one of my favorite bands, and every time they come through town, I tend to miss out. I'm like, man, I'm going to see these guys. They will be in town. Nah, didn't happen. Oh, they're going to be back in this venue. I'm going to go. No, never happened. Well, they finally came back. And I'm like, I'm not missing this opportunity again. And this band I'm talking about, Trivium. Yes. Holy crap. But these guys were just phenomenal live. First time seeing. And I've been to festivals. Festivals where Trivium was featured on there. But I never had a chance to see them. So here is Trivium, and they're playing at a small club not too far from me, 5 minutes from my house. And I gotta say, I went there, and I was not disappointed. These guys are incredible musicians, right? Incredible musicians. Matt Heafy, Corey, Apollo, and the drummer, I believe his name is Alex. I believe he's a local guy in the area. But Trivium was phenomenal. They played almost an hour and a half or two setless, playing all the old stuff, playing all the recent modern stuff of the 2000 era. So these guys, man, they were just phenomenal. These guys were phenomenal. And I understand these guys like to practice backstage prior to a show. Just like Metallica, right? You know how Metallica has a practice room. They play a whole set list before they go on stage. That's what Trivium does. And that's why they are so tight, so good on stage. It's almost perfection. And I got to say, I became a huge fan walking out. Huger. I don't want to say huger is a word, but become a bigger fan than I was coming in. So Trivium, first time ever, phenomenal. So that was my number 7. Let's go to my number 6. And this band was performing at the Milwaukee Metal Fest. And holy smokes, these guys another band that blew my mind. A metal band, of course. I'm talking about the Black Dahlia Murder. So, again, rest in peace, Trevor. We miss you, man. And, of course, they came on stage, and they had, I'm not sure, a documentary crew filming, had a bunch of personal cameras filming the whole set. But these guys came on stage, and destroyed. Man, I mean the singer. I mean, I'm drawing blanks in my head here. The singer of the Black Dahlia Murder right now, who's performing, coming on stage, finger pointing, just yelling at you. I mean, just branding on guitar. The band sounds so tight. The drums sounded good. It's perfection, And I gotta say, the Black Dahlia Murder were phenomenal live, and I kind of wish I would have saw them with Trevor in the band. And I'm again just missed out. And at least I got a chance to see them perform at the Milwaukee Metal Fest and continue on the legacy and honor Trevor. And Black Dahlia Murder, man. What you can say about them? Great records, and seeing them live were just phenomenal. And I would recommend seeing them if you're a thrasher or a metalhead and you haven't seen them. And if they're in your neck of the woods, go see them. All right, so let's talk about my top 5. So we're on my top 5 bands I haven't seen this year in 2023. Well, it's no other than a little old band from Texas. And now we're going to go more to a classic rock, a southern rock. I'm talking about ZZ Top. So I'd never seen them. And again, rest in peace, Dusty, who played on bass. And again, opportunity, I could have saw them in the past. I missed out. Well, ZZ Top came on, performing a co-headlining tour with Lynyrd Skynyrd during their summer tour. Of course, they ended the night headlining. And I gotta say, with Elwood Francis playing on bass, Billy Gibbons, who again still killing on vocals and playing guitar at the age he's at, and Frank Beard on drums. I mean, the stage present, these guys doing their classic, doing this with their knees, doing their classic pose, the ZZ Top pose. The fuzzy guitars, and they played all the classics. And I gotta say, I was a fan. I've always been a fan, but I walked away as a bigger fan. First time seeing them, and who knows? Maybe I'll see them on their second leg of tour of 2024. We'll have to see about that. But nonetheless, ZZ Top made it my top 5. All right, let's talk about this next one. Top number 4. And this band toured with Parkway Drive this past fall of 2023, and they were opening it up for Parkway Drive. And these guys are Australian boys, and these guys a lot of people know about. If you're a fan of metalcore, and you know these guys, I'm talking about the Amenity Affliction. Man, number 4 on my list. I enjoyed seeing, and I knew very music of theirs coming into the show, very new. Now I know my younger sibling, she was a big fan. She was a big fan of the Amenity Affliction, and she knew all the lyrics, all the songs. But seeing them live, oh man, a whole different. Again, the perception from hearing it on record or Spotify or Apple Music and seeing them live. Holy, that took it to a whole new level when you see them live. They came on stage and they destroyed. I mean, bodies were everywhere in the pit. But you got guys crowd surfing. And I gotta say, these guys made me become a fan. And I gotta say, these guys are on my playlist all the time. And I gotta say, the Amenity Affliction, if they come in your neck of the woods and you're a fan of metalcore, go see them. You will not be disappointed. And get ready if you want to go wild. So, Amenity Affliction, number 4 on my list of new bands I haven't seen in 2023. All right, so we're down to 3 more. So, as I'm going through my list here, number 3. This band is a young, upcoming death metal band. I guess you want to categorize them. moving up the ladder, man. These guys are on tour all the time, all year long. They were on tour with Cattle Decapitation. Who else? They've been other death metal tours, but they stopped the Milwaukee Metal Fest. And these guys, I wanted to see. They were playing on the main stage, and of course, I went to go. Of course, I had to see them, right? The big hype. How good are these guys in the world of death metal? And I'm talking about Sengla Sugabog. Yes, these guys made it on my top 3 bands I haven't seen that I finally saw in 2023. What you can say? These guys crushed it. I mean, 2 guitar players, a vocalist, and a drummer. These guys came on, and I got to say, these guys are the future of death metal, right? Future of death metal. These guys came on, and they brought an energy. They have the energy. They have the crowd moving, and these guys know how to just put out bangers of death metal music. So you talk about upcoming death metal bands. This is the band you should be watching and check out live. Sengla Sugabog. I know if you can understand their logo, you can probably find your local Walmart. Go see them, man. I'm pretty sure they're going to be on tour 2024. I guarantee it. All right, number 2. We're down to my two more left from bands I haven't seen in 2023 that I enjoyed. I'm talking about another band is from Australia. I talked about they went on tour with them in The Affliction. I'm talking about Parkway Drive. So I had tickets prior to the pandemic. You know, the whole Parkway Drive, that was supposed to be my first time with Hatebreed and a couple of other bands. And that whole tour got scrapped. And I'm like, okay, so these guys I guess I'm not going to see them. And they decided they're going to announce a 2023 tour. And I think they did a early winter 2023 tour dates, but the closest was St. Louis. And then they announced a second leg, and they were hitting Chicago. I'm like, why not? It's my chance to see them. So I went to go see them, and I got to say, I was already a big fan of Parkway Drive. I mean, every song is an anthem from them, right? And I got to say, seeing them live, I can't wait to go see them again. And yes, they came to a venue in Chicago where they were not able to do the full pyro, the full production. But they managed to have the drum spinning, of course, and just awesome production lights. And these guys had energy. These guys had energy. And these guys came on stage and they brought the pain. And Parkway Drive were just perfect. And you know these guys are live, right? Obviously, the hot topic in the past year or two is bands playing with backing tracks, right? Faking it out on stage. Parkway Drive, you knew they were playing live. Just the way they play guitar on stage doing solos, you can hear a little mistakes or a little off key, but you know it's genuine, you know it's real. And these guys came on stage and destroyed it. No pun intended. Obviously, Destroyer, a great song from Parkway Drive. But these guys came out and they kicked ass. And Parkway Drive made number 2 on the list of the bands I haven't seen in 2023. All right, here we go, folks. Number 1, I teased it. You'll be surprised, right? And again, leaning more to the classic rock here, and you're like, oh, hell no. This is not his number 1. And I gotta say, seeing them live, it was inspiring, right? Inspiring. These guys were a legendary band. And this band toured with the band who made it my top 5 on my list. If you're paying attention, the band they went tour on was ZZ Top. And the band I'm talking about that's number 1 on my list for the bands I haven't seen in 2023, I'm talking about Lynyrd Skynyrd. That's right, Lynyrd Skynyrd made my number 1 choice And I gotta say, man, I can't keep my playlists or albums off my Apple Music of Lynyrd Skynyrd music. Just incredible. These guys were incredible live. These guys put on a hell of a rock show. I mean, they played all the classic anthems, Freebird, Simple Man, Give Me Three Steps, What's That Smell? I mean, they just played all the classics, like the early days of Skynyrd, right? Dating back, way back from the early 70s. And I gotta say, seeing these guys live were just phenomenal. I felt it was a great. I should have felt the Lynyrd Skynyrd should have closed out the night and had ZZ Top play before them. That's how good these guys were. And Lynyrd Skynyrd, I mean, they have the whole deal, right? Ricky Medlock on the guitar. Rest in peace, Rossington, who passed away. We got another guitar player, I forget names, sir, who replaced him in the band. Bass player, drummer, you got backing vocals, you got Van Zant, fronting the band. And here Lynyrd Skynyrd's going to be doing a show for New Year's Eve of 2023 in Nashville, I heard, so I got to check that out. But I got to say, these guys, they blew my mind. And the next time they come back to town, I will travel to see them. Absolutely. And I got to say, that was my number one pick of bands I haven't seen that I saw first time in 2023. All right, so if you made it this far, of course, and you saw a band that maybe you haven't seen that was the very first time, drop it in the comments section of YouTube. And if you're listening on the podcast, send me a DM on Facebook, X, Instagram. And all you have to do is send me a DM and I say, hey, look, dude, I saw this band and this was the number one band, the highlight of the year. It's that simple. And as I mentioned, podcast is available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts. All right, folks, happy New Year. And I can't wait for 2024. New records. I've been pumping out new tours throughout all the episodes. You know what's going on. 2024 is going to be strong when it comes to music. So go out and support the bands, small to big. Buy the merch, buy their records, support local record stores, man. Keep them around, man. Go give them a little bit of love. And as always, stay heavy. And I'll talk to you guys next year. Happy New Year and happy holidays.